How do you make an impact in a genre which is already occupied by two titans, in this case Satisfactory and Factorio? Well, that is exactly what Star Rupture is trying, and I had the pleasure to play it for the last 2 weeks in early access, and this is my 30-hour review, aka more thoughts. So let's jump immediately into the gameplay loop. You are starting out by being sent to an alien planet, which has a designation, but I always forget the name of it. And you can choose from 4 characters when you are starting the game. Well, technically, you can jump between them freely. And you have the soldier here, the biologist, the scientist, and last but not least, the engineer. And you now might think, oh, a class system. Oh, that's interesting. Unfortunately, right now, it doesn't really matter which of the 4 you are playing. The only thing which changes is how you look, what your character will say when they see certain things, and that's it. There is no gameplay difference between the 4 classes, which is really unfortunate because there is a leveling system in the game, right? You will level up your character, you will enhance your character through certain things you can find in the game, but it is all the same no matter which character you are playing. And I'm really hoping that throughout early access there will change, that there will be a difference between, well, playing the soldier and playing the biologist, at least a little bit, and that you have some areas where you might shine. And when you are landing on the planet, your mission is pretty simple. You have to farm resources, and more importantly, your factory must grow. And so you start out with your mining laser, you do a little bit of manual labor, which takes about 50 minutes of gameplay, and then you are starting to automate everything, right? You're putting down your miners, the miners will then start to get the resources, send them to the smelters will transform them into bars, and then you will transform the bars into wires, tubes, bars, sheets, and so on and so forth. Whatever you need to later down the road then craft more complicated and delicate items, right? And then those items have to be sent to your corporate overlords. But this is not like Satisfactory, where you're working just for Fiskit. You are a convict, right? You are a prisoner, and you have been sent to this planet to basically work off your debt. And you're not just working for one company, you have multiple corporations in the game, and those have all their, well, unique path, but also they all need different items. So what you are starting to do is you are crafting those specific items they need for a specific tier, and then you will send it out with a space elevator. And when you have sent enough items, aka created enough XP for said corporation, you will get a level up. Whenever you get a level up, you will unlock new stuff in the game, like, let's say, an inventory expansion, or you are getting new toys like new weapons, new upgrades for your character, or far more important, you will get new things you can now build in your factory, and you can now build even more complicated items. And that is basically the loop when it comes to building the factory. But there's far more to this game. One of the main things in this game is going on an adventure. Go out there and explore. And you will have to do that because at some point, when you are expanding your factory, you will realize, oh shoot, wait a minute. Those guys now want tubes from me. I cannot produce tubes. What am I doing here? Well, you need certain resources for it, right? But more importantly, you have to find a blueprint. Where do you find the blueprint? Well, out in the open. So you're starting to look around, and you will realize very quickly that there is a lot of points of interest in the game, and the map is pretty huge. So the game is definitely inviting you to go out there and explore. And when you're doing that, you slowly realize, that's weird. There was definitely some people here before me, but they're all dead. What happened? Well, at the beginning, it looks like, convicts doing convict stuff. Some of them are murderers, and they are starting to murder again, so it's just an accident. But then you also realize very quickly, oh, wait a minute. Those are not dead people because they killed each other, something else killed them. And in this case, it's bugs. Yes, there are tons of bugs on this planet, and they're not friendly. Not at all. And at the beginning, you only have your mining laser to defend yourself a little bit, and then you can later on unlock a pistol. And then a little bit more later, you will unlock assault rifles, shotguns, and LMGs. And yes, you can also change the loadout of those weapons and change their behavior because of that. And you have much better ways to actually defend yourself against those pests. And again, exploring is a huge part. There is also something like, I would say, main story, because you will realize when you are exploring, there's something else here. It's not just bugs, there's something else. And it definitely reminded me a little bit here and there of Subnautica, right? How Subnautica is trying to do environmental storytelling, that you're walking around, you're finding audio logs, you're finding emails, and you slowly start to piece things together. And then you also realize, oh, when you are in a base and you're looking around, you get an idea of what happened here. Again, at the beginning, wasn't really a big fan of the story, but then I got more and more intrigued when I realized what's going on here. And I'm really curious to see where they are taking this whole story piece in early access, and then, of course, the full release of the game. But one thing I definitely want to talk about when we are talking about the bugs is people have been concerned that those bugs will also attack your base. So let's talk about quickly about that. In the first area, your base will not get attacked. Like when you are building in the beginning area where you start out, in my 30 hours, my base never got attacked there. Not even once. That did change though when I did go into a different biome in a different area and started to build my base there. Then it got attacked occasionally. Now, before you're panicking, what happens when you are getting defeated and the monsters are overrunning your defenses, your turrets? And yes, there are turrets in the game to defend your base. Unfortunately, there's only a small turret and a big turret in the game. There's no walls and nothing else to defend yourself. So they definitely have to add more. But what happens when all your defenses fail? Well, nothing really bad. They will take over your base, more or less, and they will plant on the main hub of your base. They will plant like a little gobble bubble weird thing, something which shines blue and you can see it, and your base starts to malfunction. Your base doesn't work anymore. So what you have to do is you have to clear out the bugs, and then you have to find that little tumor thingy on your main tower, destroy it, and afterwards your base is just operating again. No, they will not destroy it like in Factorio, right? So you're not losing hours and hours of work. You don't have to fear that. But there is something else out there. And it's not really a thing, it's not really hunting you, it's just there, you know? And that is the sun. Because the sun is erupting every hour and is scorching the whole planet. and everything which is not inside of a building is getting crisp, right? So you better are inside. You are getting a few warnings, and then you will also learn to look at the sun and get a feeling of when that thing will erupt, or, well, you have a timer somewhere and then you know when the sun is erupting. But yeah, you have to go inside so that you're not getting killed. No, your base is not getting destroyed. It's all fine. And it will basically cleanse the planet. And that whole event is not just awesome to look at and very dangerous, but there are actually gameplay elements coming with it. So, what happens after the erupture of the sun? Well, as I said, the planet is scorched, and now it's the time to go out there. Yes, food is gone, water is gone, and it takes about 50 minutes till the planet is regenerating. And in those 50 minutes, you can do a lot. There are now rare resources, which you normally don't get. There are now areas you couldn't go to, but now they are open up because whatever was there in the way got burned, right? So this opens up new areas. And more importantly, no enemies. The enemies are all gone, and you can now just go into some of the outposts and other areas which were crawling with bugs and just grab the loot. So, this is really the time where you should go out there and do something instead of just sitting in your base and trying to prepare for whatever you're doing. Now, of course, I had moments where the planet was scorched and I was just building in my base, but after some time, I definitely learned to utilize the Star Rupture. Yes, roll the credits. Now, let's talk about a few other things very quickly here. This is basically the gameplay loop I had to play with for the first 30 hours, and I felt like there was much more to explore, much more to build, and much more to do. But there are also a few things which still need some work. So first, let's talk about performance. This is an Unreal Engine 5 game, nonetheless, and I had 0 crashes in my 30 hours, and performance was good. I was playing on the highest settings, besides of reflection, shadows, and lighting. I kept that to medium because when you were going beyond medium in UE5, it will activate Lumen, aka ray tracing. And that really screws up the performance, so I deactivated that and I had 60 FPS throughout 4040p the whole time. And I'm running 32 gigabyte of DDR4 RAM. I have a Ryzen 5800 X3D and a GeForce 3080 with 12 gigabyte of VRAM. And again, no problems whatsoever. The only slowdowns I had, you also sometimes see in the video, is, by the way, because I was recording. Apparently my PC didn't like that much. But without recording, it was running smooth, and it only happened when it saved very quickly, right? So yeah, not a big deal, really. But there is something which has to do with gameplay, which is a problem for me right now, and that is balance, or to say the gameplay flow in the beginning of the game. You know, when you're playing Satisfactory or Factorio, there is a flow to building a base, building the items, and do something with those items you just crafted. And that is a very important part of the game. Unfortunately, in Star Rupture, at the beginning, there will be times where I build whole areas for my factory, right? Because the game was like, oh, we need wolfram wire, we need wolfram sheets, we need this and that. And I was like, okay, well, those are important base items, and I probably need them for later. So let's build a whole area in my factory. So I was building that, I was producing them, I was sending them up to the corporations. And then the game was like, yeah, cool, thanks, we are done here. Wait, what do you mean you were done here? I just built a whole area to prepare for using those items in later products. what am I doing now with those items? Well, come back in about 10 hours. Yeah, about 10 hours. And then you will start to use those items again, or even longer, depending on how you play. And I was absolutely flabbergasted by it because now you have whole parts of your factory which were just standing still, which were not doing anything. And now you might think, Mole, build some warehouses, let those items stack, and use them for later. Yeah, so here's the problem. The warehouses at the beginning of the game till mid game are pretty ass. They're pretty big, and you can only store 400 items in total in those warehouses. And especially with the standard items you are producing, it takes maybe 5 minutes. About. That's like, how many warehouses am I supposed to build here? Especially because I cannot stack them or anything. Like, nah, sorry. They have to make it so that you are using the standard items you are producing much faster. Like, it feels so weird when you have a whole part of your base not operating. Like, if you were coming from the other games, you think something is wrong, something is broken, you made a mistake. And I was sitting there for hours and I was trying to figure out what did I wrong, where could have gone differently, and how do I make this work? And the answer was, you don't. You just have to reach the point again in the game where you are finally crafting or needing those items to craft the new items. And that was a little bit disappointing, but they can fix that. So, and I still had fun with the game. To make this clear, this particular problem didn't lead to not having fun building my base, didn't make me not having fun to look around and find out stuff. I definitely had tons of fun there. And that is the important part. So after 30 hours of early access, I definitely look forward where this game is going. And I think that this game could be an awesome middle part between Factorio and Satisfactory in a way that it tries to be a little bit of both, but also is taking new ways. With that said, if you still have thoughts or questions, let me know down below in the comments. And if you're new to the channel and you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate if you leave a like. And also, if you want to see more reviews of strategy games, building and management games, which is what we are focusing on here on the channel, then you came to the right place and you want to subscribe. Also, I will probably put out some guides for beginners because there's quite a bit of stuff you have to get used to, especially if you're coming from Factorio and Satisfactory. With that said, have a good one, stay safe,